So guys, oh no, that's a horrible start. Totally gonna edit that one out. Welcome back to Geek Mythos Podcast with your co-host and your two co-hosts, Joey and Jose, and we have a special guest star, Jeremiah from Panaloids Podcast, but he's also doing another podcast by himself and working on his YouTube channel creation. Go ahead, Jeremiah. Go ahead. Tell us what you are all about.
So I have a podcast coming out soon called Above All Comics, which will dive into the history of specific aspects of comic books, creators, characters, and companies. I also run a fan Instagram of my PC, which is the Rivera collection. I collect a lot of stuff that isn't Paulo Rivera, but the main point of my collection is Paulo Rivera. I have almost every cover he's ever done. Right now, the collection sits at 353 covers. I'm only missing two, and one of those shouldn't count. But yeah, so those are my socials. I contribute to Panaloids with Kyle, Pierre, and Dimitri, where we just ramble and they have the dumbest of guesses what's going on with the cinematic universe and so forth.
Boy, I
Um,
mean, look what's going on with DC lately, and Warner Brothers as an example of just like how um unorganized they really are as an organization, and like what they want to bring to the theaters and all that, and like discontinuing
is
some shows and
batshit
some.
too on point? Is batshit too on point?
No, seriously, it is. I mean, they just canceled Gotham Knights. They canceled Batgirl. Um, I don't even
Flash
know
is
what.
coming to an end.
Flash is coming to an end. DC Legends is coming to an end. I mean, they still got their, number one show, which is Superman Lois. And I think Stargirl is like maybe 50-50 on the balance. I think maybe it did get renewed for season
There
4.
hasn't been any talk, but I know Doom Patrol is canceled as well.
Yes, Doom Patrol is also
And
canceled.
there's also mention we haven't heard yet, but Young Justice. They
Yeah,
don't
that's
know if it's going
true.
to another season.
What about Titans? What about Titans?
Titans is getting
Uh,
season 4.
Oh, it is?
it's
Okay.
It's in
getting
production. Yeah.
yeah.
Which is kind of like, like I don't mind it. It has a great cast, but the writing lately in season 3 was such a disappointment. When you built up the storyline, and I was telling Joey right when I was watching, I'm like, you gotta watch it because it's pretty good. They brought in the Scarecrow. I forgot the guy's his name. He was in another show. He was really good at Jonathan Crane, but then all of a
He
sudden,
was in Mad Men.
yes, there you go, Mad
Yeah.
Men. But then he just fell flat, and I was watching Mad Men. Yes. And then it just like the last episode was like, really? This is how you're gonna end it? This is how you're gonna just like this is the final moment? Wow. You
Yeah,
know?
they made him a bit of a hippie. I didn't like that portrayal of Scarecrow compared to how Cillian Murphy played it in Batman Begins. I couldn't stand it.
Did
It
you
was
hear
too. Yeah,
Did you hear the rumors that he's being cast as Doom?
would love to see him as Doom. Actually,
He would be insane as Doom. He'd be
yeah,
so good as Doom.
yeah. And I mean, and if John Krasinski, which was funny because they both were in uh 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 Quiet Place too. So
Mhm.
Oh
imagine them
yeah, he
being
was in the
yeah.
Quiet Place too. I forgot that he was in the.
So
Oh yeah, he was a great character too.
yes. So imagine putting those two together as like the best of friends, but also you see like that villainy of
Oh, that would be.
who's the
And
greatest.
then if Emily Blunt is cast as Invisible Woman, it's basically a Quiet Place in the Marvel universe.
Yeah. So
It's
this
interesting.
Oh no, go ahead. Sorry, I'm sorry.
It's interesting when you have HBO Max, when you can do whatever you really want. You're not tied to trying to please a specific audience and make sure that it's advertiser friendly. They still kind of just go off the rails. Warner Brothers slash DC needs a lightning rod. They need a tent pole, and like Marvel has that within Kevin Feige, who will take the reins at DC and like write the path because every couple of years they have a new 10-year plan that lasts 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
it's
go ahead. Go ahead, go ahead.
yeah, no, it's pretty bad because I think they're desperate to see what's going to happen with this Flash movie because right now Ezra Miller is all over the place on the news about something that he's done wrong. And they're like, I'm surprised he hasn't gotten kicked out, like at all. But as soon as the whole Amber Heard Johnny Depp situation hit, he was off the Harry Potter, the 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 Grindelwald,
Roller thing, yeah.
Fantastic Beast.
Fantastic Beast.
Uh, Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's like I'm wondering, like, what you know, are they this desperate to like hold on to Ezra Miller to make sure the Flash is coming out, not to kick him out, and just to have him there until they finally finish the film? I don't know. It's I don't know what Warner Brothers is doing, but they're all over the place.
Yeah, it's a damn
Do
shame.
you think they're trying to sell DC?
It's
I
not the
was
first time. I
yeah.
mean, there has been talk many times before that uh the DC was gonna get well, actually no. Marvel at some point was gonna get bought, but they did at some point they did pretty well. And that was years ago though.
Well, Marvel was bought in 1994.
Yeah.
Toy Biz bought out Marvel in 1994, and Avi Alrad took over. And then he limped along until bankruptcy in 97. And then that's when Ike Perlmutter stepped in, limped it again until 2009, and then Disney bought it, um, while remaining Ike Perlmutter as president, for the time being. Um, but Warner Brothers has owned DC, I want to say since mid 80s
Yeah, I
when
think
Independent News sold.
I think yeah, a couple years before the Batman movie came out, no?
Yeah, I think it was 83 is when Independent News sold, or National Periodical sold DC. Now, just in the past week or so, DC has registered a bunch of new trademarks and websites and whatnot. If I remember reading that correctly, they registered a bunch of new stuff. So, is Warner Brothers looking to move the entire IP? And if so, Marvel was bought for 4 billion. What is DC worth? And this is Marvel's 4 billion before the cinematic universe.
It's because they didn't have they bought Marvel, but they didn't have all the characters because
Hmm.
what Universal still had Hulk, Spider Man. Definitely, Sony didn't want to leave like
Fox
give
with
Spider Man
X Men
out.
and Fantastic Four.
Yeah,
Where was Namor? Namor was a specific Lionsgate. Namor was with Lionsgate.
And they didn't even use them, did they?
No, they
no,
didn't. They used Man Thing. There is a terrible /
Yes.
wonderful Man
Yeah.
Thing movie.
Uh,
Yeah.
that was a sci-fi movie, like a sci-fi channel
Yeah.
Yeah,
movie.
it should have been released straight to VHS, straight to VHS horror movie.
Yeah, it's right there next to that awful Fantastic Four made by what was it? I think it was made by Roger Corman. I think
Yeah,
made the
1994.
Fantastic
That was a
Four. Yeah.
great one though. Have you actually sat down and watched that one?
I tried. It was just there
If
was
you can get through the hokiness, it's pretty solid.
I
I
remember there was a time when the Fantastic Four came out with the whole Chris Evans, Jessica Alba.
Hmm.
You know how everybody's selling bootlegs, and then my brother ended up getting the bootleg as a Fantastic Four because it was already in theaters. When I said, "Hey, can I watch it?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, watch it." When I put it in, I was like, "Holy crap! This is the Roger Corman movie. They sold him a flub. They just totally sold him the wrong movie."
it's fucked. It's so fucked. I did watch the 1990s TV movie of the Justice League, and that had one of the most corniest freaking. They had the freaking corniest lines for Green Lantern, which I think it was like a mixture of Hal Jordan and like Green Gardner's outfit, because it had like a vest on type of
The
thing.
best.
Yeah, and then I don't know, like it also was a mixture. They had the wrong Flash for the wrong Hal Jordan. It was like their characteristics were swapped. So Green Lantern was more of a corny, funny guy, and Flash was kind of like a more serious, type
A
of
straight
yeah,
edge kind of
yeah.
dude.
It was just so bad.
Uh, the only I want to say the only Marvel-esque movie that I got early with bootleg, and it was such a terrible copy. It was Wolverine Origins. And about halfway through the movie, the CGI wasn't done yet. So that awesome scene with the helicopter was literally just a green screen with Hugh Jackman rolling off like boxes and like walking towards the camera. Like from that point on in the movie, it was this green screen. It wasn't, if it was shot on location, it was a location shot. But if it was green screen, it was just him and a green screen. I don't know how my brother got the copy, but I distinctly remember that.
It's director's cut right there, man.
It's better than the original.
Yeah. All right, so the main topic of this episode was actually to talk about movies that could be series, movies that we consider to be really good, but could be much better in a series or TV show. And we have different, categories. We have different movie ideas that could be into a series. We didn't talk about it. We were going to talk about it beforehand. That way, we don't have anything in the same list. But you know what? Screw it. Last minute, type of thing. So, who wants to go first? You know
I'll give
what?
my big
Special
one
guest
out of
star.
the
Go
way.
ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So if there's anything that the boys have taught us while watching the boys is Carl Urban deserves a television show. And the best one that he would have fit for the 2012 Dread movie.
I knew you were gonna
If
say
they
that.
if they had turned that into a TV show, I would be so fucking over the moon. One, they could go all around Mega City 1. Dread doesn't need to be the main focus. There could be mutants. There could be just the judges, and Dread just is like looming in the background. Carl Urban, Dread looming in the background would be such a good fucking series. If he showed up like every other episode and just was Dread, I would. That movie is one of probably my favorite movie of all time, to be 100% honest, because I'm a big Judge Dredd fan. But the way he carried that character and the fact we only got one movie with him is a fucking outrage. Like that as a series, especially now we see him with the boys. Like, oh my god, it would have been so great if Dread was made into a series instead of a TV show.
I did have to Google like some ideas and everything, and he always popped up. But I didn't realize that he did so many movies back then. Like I didn't even know he was in the Lords of the Rings
Lord of the
until I saw a
Rings,
photo.
yeah.
And I wasn't I didn't I to be honest though I didn't
Star
watch Lord of the
Trek.
Rings, but still Star Trek is another one. Yeah, he was great.
One of my favorite facts about Carl Urban is he grew up in the UK. Um, and when they were doing the casting for Judge Dredd, he did the reading and everyone liked him. But it's very important that Judge Dredd's face is not shown. That's the biggest problem with the Stallone movie is he didn't wear the helmet near the fucking all. Dredd doesn't show his face. And so before they cast Urban, they brought him in and they sat him down. They're like, "We want you to know that your face will never be seen. Like you get that your face will never be seen." And he just replies with, "If my face was going to be seen, I want to be sitting here." Because he was a
Mm.
big Dredd fan. He knows the importance of that. And he got the scowl perfectly. And the woman that was playing Judge Anderson, she was in Why the Last Man. I forget her name. She was fantastic as Anderson. We should have had a Hershey. We should have had the Dark Judges referenced. Like, I, I want a Dread show so bad.
It's a good point. It's a good point. What about you, Joey? What's on your list?
Uh, because I read the book and I also enjoyed the movie. I felt that they could do it justice if they follow the book and it's Ready Player One.
It's on my list too. Okay, that one's on my
I
list.
mean, I,
Dread wasn't.
the thing that the movie was missing was a lot of 80s references. Like it was, I mean, they included a lot of Easter eggs, but not the book didn't even have that. And I wanted to be that type of adventure with with the kid trying to figure out how to get the keys. Because in the book, it's almost like he's studying and doing all these things, and it takes him almost 5 years to try to figure it out. And it's when he and they don't show like how big and massive the virtual world is. There was actual schools and educations and things like that. He was able to go to school because he wasn't going in the real world. So it's like he would go to school there, deal with the 9 to 3 or whatever, and then he would play regular video games. But the thing was that you know, he was kind of like sort of an outcast in his own in the real world. So in the virtual world, he was more like he was hip and he was, but he wasn't even a good looking guy. He was like pretty, husky, chubby, and stuff like that. It's later on he starts to sort of change throughout the entire series, and I kind of want to see that. I want like the '80s references and all the games that are mentioned there. They mention Doom, they mention World of Warcraft, they mention every single game we've played. And it's like there's these, you could go off planet and things like that. So there was like it was massive. And I feel like they didn't capture that. And it was very Steven Spielbergy because he's always very attached to when it comes to children. He tries to have that friendship and all that stuff. And one thing that he didn't do is one of the characters ends up dying in the book, which I would have loved to have just see that sort of experience in the series and see them like
The
actually
emotion.
trying,
Yeah.
yeah, the emotion and all that stuff, which I think that that would be like a perfect to have it as a series.
Yeah, I watched that movie when it came out about 13 times within that year. And yeah, it had the cameos, but the soundtrack was really good. I mean, the whole ending really, when it was the Iron Giant versus Mecha Godzilla, was just epic. It was just great
Yeah,
to see. I mean, you'd never think of that, but that was just great to see. And I was like, this could have been so much could have been much more well handled in a series because it could have played out, finding the key, getting the key, having those scary moments and like what they did with the Shining references. They
yeah,
could have had more references towards different movies and even video games. I think that kind of like, you know, those cameos would have been much more well put together, I think.
yeah,
It was
More
everything was
rewarding.
all yeah, it was everything was in the background really and you had to like see it, Which
yeah.
is fine, but that's only in a movie. In a
Requires
series,
multiple viewings to catch everything, and yeah.
yeah. Took me 13 movies. Since I'm not gonna use that, I'm going to say the Assassin's Creed movie.
I have not seen that. Is it worth watching? Is the question.
Did you watch? Did you play the games? I
I
It
did play
isn't
the
worth
games.
watching.
There are some good scenes. I think when they're what's it called? When they're going through the city and running away, I think there were really good scenes cinematically. But then overall, the story was kind of like lackluster because it was just like okay.
Would the cutscenes all put together make a better movie?
Yeah, kind of
Yeah,
like what
Fair
they did
enough.
with Obi Wan. Kind of like what they did with Obi Wan.
yeah. It's one of those games where you can't help but fall in love with the characters, and I felt like there was not that much. You didn't feel connected to any of the characters in the film. Like they were missing a lot of something. They're like they just wanted to make a hit, like when they did Prince of Persia with Jake Gyllenhaal, who isn't like Arabic or Indian of any. He's just a white guy playing a character that he shouldn't even be playing. Like if it was
Well, the other thing
happening
of having
now,
a huge actor in like a big role like that, because Michael Fassbender, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you see Michael Fassbender. You don't see the character. It's like same thing with Jake Gyllenhaal. You didn't see him as that character. You just saw the actor. And it's one of the problems that I think we're gonna have with Black Adam is we're gonna see The Rock. He's a better character actor than I think Bender and Gyllenhaal is, with the exception of Mysterio. He killed Gyllenhaal, did great with Mysterio, but I think it's just going to be distracting that it's The Rock. I hope not, but I think so.
Well, at least this one he doesn't have a gray shirt. He has
and
a black shirt.
I kind of
And
wish
he's
he
in a
kept the
jungle.
ears. The ears he should have kept, like the sharp ears. That was what
Are
was
we
what I
positive he
thought.
doesn't have them?
I mean, I've seen the close-ups in the trailer. It looks he has no ears. He doesn't have the ears. I was
That
hoping he would have had the ears. Even the hair would have
yeah,
been kind of crazy to see too. Just a slick back
agreed.
hair.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
Maybe we'll get a reference to it later on in the movie or early on in the movie where he cuts it all off because
I
of so
yeah.
on and so forth. There's a possibility.
I do like
Maybe.
the suit and then like the messed up
Suit does
cape.
look great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's good.
So for my next one is a movie that I don't know if either of you have seen, but destroyed the box office in March of 2020. I'm a big Valiant fan, and Bloodshot was Valiant's first big swing at a movie, and it was released March 12th, 2020, which was a week that not a lot of movies were released, and then everything was shut down, so it dominated the box office for March. Um, Being a Valiant fan, seeing any type of medium that adapts Valiant, Bloodshot would be great. I'd even be fine with keeping Vin Diesel as the character and actually doing a good Bloodshot story. Over the, I'd rather take 8 episodes than 2 hours of him being weirdly not the character. That's a series that I would like to see. Any Valiant property, I'd like to see adapted to a series, but Bloodshot would be the one that fits the best, besides Exo Manowar. But that would require a lot of money. There was talk and speculation way back in 2020 that Dr. Mirage was going to get a TV show, but that definitely it's not happening. So, yeah, seeing Vin Diesel as the character for 8 hours instead of two and actually like develop into the character would have been really cool. But I don't know how many people A care or B saw that movie.
I can see probably Amazon probably tackle that with what they're doing with the
Yeah.
boys and Invincible to
Hmm.
tackle, to try to stay away from the Marvel and DC and kind of get get some
Well,
of the
they
comics from
they just dropped
you know
Paper Girls, which was fantastic.
Yeah, they
Paper
DC.
Girls
did.
is so good.
I have to see it.
I haven't binged a show in a long time, and I binge a show in a day.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn. I did. There's not that many. That's not that many talk in comic TikTok. About Paper Girls, which is kind of weird. Everybody likes to talk about
Oh,
indie books, but they don't talk about that one.
yeah. It was a great book. It had a great run. It's Brian K. Vaughan, so you know the writing is going to be incredible. Cliff Chang's artwork is to die for, and they're the nicest fucking people in the world. On top of everything, so their story was absolutely fantastic, and they did a really really good job adopting it. There was a lot of straight lines, and who like the three casting directors for that show deserve way more praise than they're getting. They cast the girls correctly. They cast the villains correctly. Like that show was. I cannot wait for if there's a season two, which I hope there is. I cannot wait for it.
That's good. That's great. Great to hear. I gotta
I
watch
think
Joey,
that.
what's
that's one thing that Netflix does. They hold on. They try to hold on to the shows at least. They don't cancel like first season at time. At least
mhm.
they'll try to gravitate to like to third season until they feel like, yeah, it's not
They've
doing too
drained it of
well.
all of its glory.
Yeah, which is really cool about Netflix. Sometimes shows pop up and like, yeah, it's only going to 12 episodes and they're canceling it. And like CBS, NBC, uh, they don't know how to tackle it. This is probably why Star Trek is probably in Paramount because I guarantee if it was like on any other like regular television like NBC, ABC and all that, they'll probably be like, "Nah, we're not going to watch this." And I think
Yeah,
Paramount has
not
done a
drawing
great
enough
job
eyes.
kind of
Yeah.
has been tackling that pretty well. Even with Halo, they doing well with the sci-fis. Mine's believe it or not, this was I thought of this when I was like cleaning up at my job because I clean I'm a porter and I kept thinking what if they did a Nightmare on Elm Street series where it isn't doesn't start with Freddy Krueger but as Frederick Krueger and he's just getting hired as a janitor at the school for children and sort of kind of like see the drama and
See him
the
unravel.
yeah, but I want it to have it has to be a period piece. I can't deal with because I feel like the thing about fear these days is just it doesn't it doesn't work as much as it back then because it was very difficult to even get in contact with anybody back in the day because there was really no
Mhm.
phones, you know. It was like there was phones at home, but when it came to cell phones, you couldn't get in contact. So there was always this like there was a fear there. It was difficult. You were always alone and was always and I would like that to take place in the 80s instead of taking place like at this in
Present
this
day.
time. Yeah, and just to have that sort of element that and have that same fear that Wes Craven put in us about dreams and not being able to get out of it. But the way I would see it is like the first season would probably just be his transition of him committing this sort of crimes as a human being, and then end it with them literally trying to kill him for
Yeah,
coming out of
the
you know
building on fire, him trapped
yeah,
inside.
and then sort of that's when second season would try to pick up and it'll change the whole thing. Now it's no longer a serial killer hunting children. It's gonna be a monster hunting your nightmares, and that'll change it up.
Springfield, Ohio is calm now that the child murderer has gone away, but now the
Yeah.
kids are starting to dream. That's a really good concept. It's a really good concept.
I like that. I like that. Yeah.
Everybody Jose.
It's gonna be hard, but I think Dune was a okay movie. I watched it for 30 minutes and fell asleep, and then rewatched it again, 30 minutes after that, and then I fell asleep again. I'm being serious. Um, I think it could be much better because the cinematography is beautiful. But I got tired of sand, especially after watching Mandalorian and Boba Fett. I think it could have been much more well captured, and kind of like focusing on each character's past maybe in a series. To have this big political, global, I guess, and like different different companies, different planets, I think would be really cool to explore, and their way of doing things.
Now, isn't the movie supposed to be a series? Aren't they doing like 4 of them, 5 of them?
I don't know. I don't know.
I believe, yeah, I believe the plan is to keep the story going because I think they're like slated for 4 or 5 movies. But I think they also should have chopped it up into hour blocks. It would fit better. You wouldn't fall asleep. Um, and the difference between watching a 3-hour movie straight and 3 episodes is the pacing. Pacing is very important. And yes, the cinematography was beautiful and
It
wonderful,
is. It is. It is.
but you gotta keep me engaged. I we get stimulation every 20 seconds now. Seeing a beautiful vista of sand for a minute and a half, I'm gonna start to fall asleep. like, so, yeah, they should have been chopping that up a little bit,
Yeah.
giving it to us episodically. Would have, I feel, yeah, I'm right there with you. I think it would have been better, deeper into the characters, expand the mythos a little bit more.
Yeah. Give us a little more
Um,
Mass Effect type of feel. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure. There's a great Netflix movie that I saw that right when it ended, I'm like, I wish there was just more of this. I wish they chopped it up and put it into a TV show. Harder They Fall. It's a Western. Idris Alba is the big bad in it. Um, and I forgot who's the main character in it, but uh, it's a fantastic Western. Um, Hyper violent. Would have been great as a series, and I would have rather
Isn't
had
that the one with almost every black actor we have ever seen?
Yep, and they go to
Oh my
White
gosh,
Town,
it has
which is
everyone. Regina, I believe, is it Regina Hall? She
It's
was
Regina
direct.
King. Regina
Yeah,
Regina
King.
King. Yep, Regina King.
Regina King. This guy who's playing Kong.
Yeah,
He's
he's the
one of
main.
them.
He's the main. He's the main character. Yeah, he's the main. The
Yeah,
guy who's
Jonathan
playing Kang.
Jonathan Majors.
Yeah,
yeah.
so like that movie was fantastic. It's one of the best movies I've seen in recent years. I just wanted more. I wanted each character to dive in a little bit more. Like the sheriff has a shady background and he hints at it. I wanted to see that. I want to see Regina King's rise to power with Idris Alba. Like I want to see Jonathan Majors' story arc because it goes from when he's a kid to when he's an adult very quickly, and he becomes a super badass. Like
That's why
breaking that up a little bit would have been great.
like certain things should be shows. Like I feel like they need to like there's you could like try to flesh out some of the characters in there, you know. And it's hard to like in 2 hours you see a film. It's like I feel like they could have added a little bit more to it. It's a
Mhm.
great film, but then you're like, you know, you could pick at it and be like, I think they could have added a little bit more here and a little bit more there, and a little bit more,
Having
you
having a western with black actors is such a interesting idea because it's never really been done. I mean, Django Unchained kind of, but not really. That wasn't really a western. This is a legit western. And so to expand on that, like to get out of typecasting, really changes your mind on how you're viewing what's going on, especially in that time period. So that would have just been very, very entertaining in my.
I like that. Yeah. So, Joey.
uh Scott Pilgrim, but I want him to like really tackle the entire series and just to flesh out all the characters and all that stuff, because that movie, it's all three books and the volumes are huge. And it's look, it's this is the one movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So imagine how much they took out. So it's this is my son's, by the way. He got I got him into Scott Pilgrim, and his uncle ended up buying him the books. But I feel like it's like a world that's, you know, like we dealt with like breakups and relationships and dealing with like, you know, high school loves and things like that. And it has that whole, you know,
Coming of
CW
age.
drama, but yeah, coming of age CW drama type thing. But I would rather have it in more of a rated R feel to it, because you know it's, you know, they deal with like crazy things, you know. And
Now,
I think
now
I would
here's the
like,
big question. Here's the big question:
yeah.
animated or live action?
Well, right now they're doing an animated version of it, which I've heard that I
Really?
think they're trying to do a Scott Pilgrim animated, just the way Brian Lee O'Malley's doing it, like in
Artwork
his
is
artwork. Yeah. And there's even in the movie, if you get the Blu-ray, there's a short of Brian O'Malley's a cartoon in there, but with the voices of like, you know, Michael
Michael
Cera
Cera.
and everyone else doing the voices of those characters, which will be cool if they come back. And if they do the cartoon, they will come back. But I would like to see a live action, because I think it's we have the, you know, the special effects are pretty good these days to actually pull that off. You know, look at like
Mhm.
Superman, the Flash, and all these things. They're able to pull off the fight scenes and the action pack, the pow signs, and just make it look old comic booky the way the movie was. I think they could pull that off. But I would like to see all the characters flesh out and see the character relationships more, and you know, build up the entire series instead of just, you know, how they did it in the movie. They just turned 3 volumes into just 2 hour film.
But I kind of find I kind of saw Scott Pilgrim, but I don't remember what happens in the movie. To be honest, it's been a while.
Oh, he fights her 11 crazy exes? Is it 11?
And
I thought it was two.
uh is it 7? The
Seven,
7
it's
evil X.
seven evil
Yeah,
X's. Seven evil
yeah.
X's. And you think it's two because they only really dove into like two or three of them. Like Chris Evans, they dove into, um, and then like the other ones get like minutes compared to
Oh, okay.
like the hour with Chris Evans almost. But yeah, having a whole episode dedicated to each X would be really cool. Dive into like their relationship with Ramona beforehand. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
that would be really cool.
I would definitely love to see that. Yeah, with Ramona, like instead of her telling the story how she did it in the count in the film, just to have her actually show her like dating him and how that
Mhm.
relationship just went another way and stuff like that. And to be able to see that, and you know, and I think the comedy, the humor was pretty funny. You know, it wasn't didn't feel like it was horrible, or they had like these little I remember there was that scene when I think he's gonna go on a date, and he starts talking to Kyle, I believe, the his gay roommate, and then all of a sudden turn the Seinfeld theme song pops up all of a sudden, like doom dong dong dong, and I'm like, this is hilarious. And I think they did it. Yeah, I as long as they sort of keep those elements in there, I think they could definitely do a hell of a good show.
For my next pick, I said, listen, I like the Harry Potter movies, right? But when they decided to do Fantastic Beasts, I thought the first one was pretty good. You know, a lot of people didn't like it because it didn't really have a script like the movies. Then after the Grindelwald, I was like, what are we doing here? The speech was amazing in this. Was it the second movie that they did?
Second
But
movie, yes.
yeah, the speech was
After the
great.
first one, so
Oh, but the third movie that just came out, people forgot that it came out. On top of that, it went to HBO Max within like a month or so of it being in movie theaters, and I understand why it went to HBO because it was bad. Like I was so bored, and it didn't get me interested in the movie within like the first. It was like half an hour until I was like, "Oh, we're finally doing something great." And
I
then,
did not I did not like those dream fighting sequences that with Dumbledore and Grindelwald. It just took me out of the element. Like
oh, I thought it was
I
like them slowing times down.
I don't know what it was, but I just did not like that.
that
It
just
was
shows you
just
that it needs to be a show to flush it all out because
Yeah,
no
yeah,
one knows
no.
what's going on.
they had the little deer that like can go to anybody if they're like the one or they're pure of heart. I think that's what they said. They had that, which was like the bond. So if they break the bond because they either love each other or fight each other, that they will die, or one of them that insinuates it, or the one that holds it dies. It was also what's the guy's name again? The one that does fantastic, the that handles the beast.
The
Goddamn.
Uh,
actor, I don't know his name though.
Anyways,
Goodness.
him that he's trying to go and get the beast, and then trying to help his brother out of jail, and they take like 45 minutes just to take him out, doing the crab thing, which is like okay, I get it, it's funny, but like let's get it on, let's keep going. Then there's all political stuff in the background. It was just like a lot of things that just didn't feel well, and then they fought each other again, whether it was a dream or whether it was like time stopping at the same time, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
I didn't like those sequences and
and
those
then he
fights.
escapes, so now there's a fourth movie coming out. I'm just like, you could take this into a series, take it year by year, and just have little
Slow
beasts
it
here and
down.
there, slow it down. I get the romance or whatever the love thing is between them in the past, and now they're just trying to fight each other. I think this was going to be the grand finale of like Grindelwald versus Dumbledore having this big fight that they always mention in the books and in the movies. Really wasn't. Is it kind of like I think in the fourth movie that's when
Yeah,
they're gonna have the big fight.
I'm just wondering because right now I think they're just pulling things out because I don't think they're getting in contact with J.K. Rowling on this with the whole her being.
Probably best not to.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just I think that's probably the thing that's that's her world. I think she would have done something much more different than what they would have they would have done,
Yeah.
and it's it's one of those things where it's very difficult and it's like now what we don't have her anymore we're gonna have to do something and start creating things like thinking about how Star Trek is. They're using the blueprints from the previous Star Trek films when Ray Bradbury was working on Next Generation. And after he passed away, his son is sort of like the I like the way things are going, but he's not, he's
Hands on.
not, yeah, like fully involved in it. But everybody's loving the Star Trek series and the way it's going. It still has the same elements as the other ones, and that's why it's as successful as it is. You know, they still using that blueprint, but I feel like the Fantastic Beasts kind of fell off with that, and they kind of like, you know, it doesn't feel in it. And every time they enter Hogwarts, it doesn't feel like Hogwarts. It doesn't have that. element where kids want to go to school. Every time they're there, it's very dingy. It's like less kids in the dining room table. And every time they're in that area, and there's like, it just feels like I don't want to go to Hogwarts in this era.
The
Yeah,
wonder is gone.
yeah,
Yeah, it doesn't have that fear, that wonder. Like, ooh, I want to see these things. There are candles flying up in the sky, fake snow coming down. It doesn't scream, you know, that the Hogwarts from back in the day, from the first film.
I don't know. I don't know
So
what they're
my
doing
next
with.
one might.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
So my next one might be slightly controversial, but it was a super fucking long ass movie that I'd rather them chop it up and make it into a TV series. And we haven't gotten a really good live action one. We've only ever gotten great animated ones. But Batman. The most recent Batman was a combination of a bunch of great storylines. We had bits of Long Halloween, we had bits of Year Two, and I'm fine if you want to combine those, but give us Long Halloween because it's one of the greatest Batman stories ever, with elements of Year Two or Year One slowly. I
Ooh,
want to see all the holidays. Like the holidays are what's important. I want to see Julian fucking Day. Like the way that Long Halloween played out, and the animated movie was fucking dreadful.
really?
Um,
You didn't like it?
Um, so first one, because it's
First one
two
was
parter.
good.
First one was good. First one was solid. I was like, yeah, here we go. Second one, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck? You have you have the layout. You know how this is supposed to go. It was orchestrated beautifully, and you didn't drop it at the 1 yard line. You dropped it like 40 yards back. I was it was wonderful because my wife had never read it. It was sitting on our bookshelf. We watched the first part, and I get a little giddy because I like Long Halloween. Great, and they did a great job with the first part. We watched the second part, and I'm seething. And it gets over with. She's like, "That was great." And so I got off the fucking couch, I grabbed the book, and I threw it at her. I was like, "No, it wasn't." But yeah,
Yeah.
give me Long Halloween as a live action series. I'd love that. I'd absolutely love that.
I had that as an honorable mention, but you know what? You're right because I think that could play. And I don't know if you've seen Superman Lois, but this is a
I
whole
gotta
different
catch
Earth.
up.
Okay, this is a whole different
Mhm.
Earth. They do say that, which I'm happy about. Which is kind of weird in season 2, but it's fine because now we get the answer. Um, but this is his own universe, right? This is Superman by himself. If they can add somehow Batman into the mix with that production value, with that cinematography, with the storytelling, with the not 23 episodes like Smallville, which some of the episodes were kind of and then they had, the story continue, 13 episodes or 12 episodes if even, keep it short but keep the story flowing and not really that many fillers would be great for the Batman series to happen in live action.
Mhm.
And
And give me
Earth,
the detective parts of the movie. That's what I want. Detective Batman.
yeah, and it was so great
Like
what they did with the Batman, and like they took aspects of the detective mode. They gave him the detective, discovering evidence. They gave him kind of like the flirtatious a little bit towards Catwoman, but not really. But he's still brooding because he's still
the
dark. It's
cops
his
not
year
liking him
2.
being around, like
Yeah, cops not
making
liking him
people
around.
uncomfortable. That's what you
Yes.
want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people didn't like the way he walked when he was giving his presents, and I'm like, that's kind of the point though of him doing that because he's giving him fear. Like they're gonna hesitate when they throw a punch. They're gonna, they're gonna, get. They're gonna what's it called? When you get angry, you get messy. You don't fight well. So that's what I like. And I think they could do that with like the HBO Max production if they do decide to do ever a live action series for the Batman, especially that universe. And I would like to see how Tyler can, talk to the Dark Knight, whoever that would be. I think would be great. But you're right. You're right. Joey.
The Crow as
Ooh,
but I
ooh.
would do it as an anthology series to started Crow and then ended with that Crow, and then start a new series with a new Crow. Sort of like, but then not just
Altered
tackle,
Carbon, but the Crow.
yeah, but not to
Sign me
just
up.
be a male character. You could have a female Crow as
Mhm.
well.
Yeah.
Like sort of
There's been
dabble on
female
that.
crows. There've
And
been
that would be
yeah.
great to see. Like it would be, it would just tackle that element. Maybe we get the Eric Draven story through a whole season, and then him get revenge on the ones who committed what. And then the second season would be like just have that whole narration, like every, a crow come and blah blah, and then have another situation where a man and a woman, or a woman, or whatever situation, and then it's that it deals with that relationship, and just to see her transform into the new Crow, and just even revenge, and maybe even tackle some more different aspects of it, and things like that, and I don't know. If like it's possible for like a family, or if what if a you know somebody much younger experiences something more tragic, you know?
I had James O'Barr as a guest for a Comic Con that I helped put on, and I actually got to talk to James for a long time. And I forget the name of the story, and it's gonna bother me. But there was a 4-part mini. He said it was his favorite Crow story he ever did, and it was about a little girl who was murdered, and a detective who wouldn't let the case go. He was kept trying to figure it out. He lost everything because he wouldn't let the case go. He lost his wife, he lost his family, like he wouldn't let the case go. She comes back as a crow to help him. So she's not the one seeking revenge because she's the little girl still. She's helping him figure it all out. Like that would be a great series. Like the Crow anthology would be absolutely perfect. Like we get Eric's story, we get Devin's story, we get her story, like, and it doesn't have to give me 6 episodes, 6 episode series. That'd be wonderful. How they met their untimely end, them coming back, the motivation, and then play it out. Like it would write itself. That I didn't even think about that.
That's the
Damn
thing about anthologies. I think movies can become anthologies as well, because it could change through the season.
it.
Like American Horror Story has done so well capturing different types of things, like the haunted hotel, the haunted house, um the
The doll.
circus, the carnival, the dolls, everything. They always captured that 19 sort of 80s feel of getting haunted in the like the forest area, and camp. That that just keeps you going and say, oh, we got to deal with this house again. But it's good that they change it up. They like say, oh, what's gonna be this season? It keeps you like on your toes, trying to figure out like what's the next series of stories they're gonna tell, and that's very cool to see.
Yeah, I gotta, I gotta,
Anthology, The
I
Crow.
I gotta watch The Crow again.
I think
Such a
the
great
Eric
movie.
Draven one, yeah, the Eric Draven one was a little bit better. I felt like after that they were like they with the success of the first one, I felt like they wanted to keep on, but then at some point they kind of just went somewhere else, and I think things just went straight to DVD. There was even a series, I think it was called Crow Salvation, with Mark DeCasco playing Eric Draven. He came back,
Yeah, that
and
was
I was
after
like,
that was after City of Angels,
yeah, and I was like,
which is
what's
the second one.
going on here? But it didn't. The thing about the show, it didn't have that dark, real feel of the city and
It was
everything.
like bright. It was
Yeah,
designed to be like uplifting, which is cool and all, but save that for the very end. Um, if you want to go through and edit it, it's The Crow Career is James O'Barr's favorite story. That's the one with the little girl, Career. Uh, it is a tough one. It is a tough one to read, but it
Mm,
is well worth it.
okay, I'll pick it up. Definitely pick it up. Okay, mine is. I think this is like almost done. I think we're almost done. Maybe I don't know.
to
Um,
be honest, I totally forgot that we were still doing the top seven. that I had the ones that was in my head, but then I'm like the Crow, and then I was like, oh man, I don't got anything after that. Like literally, it's like I'm like running through movies in my head.
No, don't worry about it. I got
Yeah.
a minute. I really do like this franchise a lot. I didn't see the new one that came out with Emma Thompson and Chris Hemsworth, but I really did like what they tried to do with the third movie. Um, and their dynamic really worked somehow. Like it just worked perfectly with throughout the three movies that they got together. But Men in Black really could be a really good series, and for it to be those three movies, still like for them to have little episodes in between the three movies would be really cool. I know they did, I think, an animated or a cartoon show with the Men in Black.
Yeah, it
Yep.
was with Jay and what was the other uh Tommy Lee Jones's
Yeah,
character? I totally forgot
K
what
or
was his
something.
letter. K, yeah, K. I mean, it was eh,
Was
uh,
I? But I'm talking about like live
Did you
action.
did you know that Men in Black's based on a comic?
I think I did.
yeah, that I definitely know that it was based on a
Yeah.
comic, and they didn't just touch on aliens. They touched on more than just aliens.
Yeah.
It was very out there.
Axico was the company. They put out a 3-part mini, Men in Black, and then they put out Men in Black Strike Back, which was a 5-part mini, and then the company went tits up, and they ended up doing like a bunch of underground Men in Black books. Fantastic reads, wonderful reads. Also, fun fact: when you get introduced to the coffee addicted aliens for the first time, when Will Smith walks in on them, do you know what language they are speaking? Huttonese, Jabba the Hutt's language.
Oh well, that makes sense because weren't they like in the movie in
Yeah,
Becca, right?
they were running around like behind Salacious Crumb and whatnot. Yeah,
That's
I
good.
could definitely see that as the Men in Black to be a series because I mean, if they could do it like how they did Supernatural, there was like, a monster of the
villain of
week.
the week.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh
yeah,
my God. Yeah.
sort of have that, who we investigating today, and just have them knock on doors like where the lights
And
and just
every
have that.
episode hinting towards a really big bad at the end.
Yeah, I mean, it would be perfect just to see that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's even possible to even turn it into anthology and just have a whole bunch of each season have
Agents.
two different agents.
Mhm.
Imagine that. Like, and imagine one of the agents being also an alien. Just like be there,
Yeah,
shapeshifter or something, and just
Mhm.
have different types. Going around. It would be cool.
and at the end they all meet up and they all fight this big bad guy like the Power Rangers always do at the end of the season. Go ahead.
Uh, I'll throw one more out there, just because I want to see Daniel Craig monologue for the rest of my days. Knives Out.
Oh man,
Every
that'll be fun.
episode being like an investigation, and then in the end, he just almost like Doctor Houses it, but Daniel Craig's Southern monologue.
You
I
know,
could.
when that movie came out and I saw the trailer and he had a that type of voice accent, I was like, "Ain't no way he's pulling this off, right?" And then I saw the movie and it fit perfectly, and I was like, "Oh
Like
man, I
Martin
got it."
Sheen, not Martin Sheen, Martin Freeman,
Uh,
when he was doing the American accent in Black Panther. Like
oh,
immediately, just like what? But he pulls it off. Yeah,
yeah,
Daniel Craig with a Southern drawl. Just he, I don't get it because like when you see him, obviously British, he's Bond,
he's
but
Bond.
like you get the taste of crawdads. Like when he talks, like you feel it. The
Yeah.
humidity rises.
Yeah, it was good. It was good, but yeah, everybody in that movie was really good, and they're
I
coming
can't
And
out
we're
wait
with the
for
getting a
next
second
season.
one.
second one.
Yeah, they're coming out with the
Yeah,
second
they
one.
got a good cast.
They got great cast. Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't know the
that
cast.
that movie was one of the ones that like very rarely do I step out of a movie and want to go right back into it, especially a mystery movie.
Yeah, yeah,
But that's like one of those where multiple viewings only gets better. It's not, the big reveal at the end, so you're trying to catch all the little nuances beforehand. With Knives Out, you kind of just get lost in it. Like I'm really excited for the second one, but having that as a series would have been really cool as well.
It was a great mystery, and it was like fun at the same time. You know, you're not bored all the time, but you're
Mhm.
fun. It was fun.
And every 5 minutes, you're like, oh, it's definitely this person.
Yeah, it's like
Every
no,
5 minutes, they
that's like,
convince you it's someone else. So,
and we were all fucking. It was just a plot twist at the end.
red herring, red herring, red herring.
Joey,
Back to the Future. See, that's one thing. Not to remake and reboot the film, but to be able to do it into a TV show would be cool to, because I would like to know why a teenage boy knows an elderly man. They never told us about their relationship and how they met. And I would like to see that sort of open up through a series of how they became friends, and even dabble on, on him doing the flux, creating the flux capacitor and doing, all that stuff. That sort of, I think, maybe lead into the movie. And if they decide to like keep on with the show, then maybe do that. But uh, you know, flesh out the characters and more in how the household was when he went to the past and saw how his father was all kind of like cooped up and everything, because his father was pretty odd.
yeah,
And I would like to see that sort of like, just to see how he was just a weird kid, and maybe even show like, maybe go back in time and see him grow up or things like that. Show us like more of the characters growing up and why was he the way he was and things like that. And maybe Biff's relationship with his parents and why he's such a bully and why he just treats people like crap. Give it like a sort of a serious element of maybe Biff being abused as a child and that's how he learned from his parents or something like that. Kind of, key, make it a sort of a bit more serious in some aspect and still have, I think I could see it. Kind of like how they did Teen Wolf. Teen Wolf is just like
Mhm.
a comedy, but they somehow managed to do a successful show, and then there's a movie coming up,
so
and
The original Teen Wolf movie is way better than it has any right to be. It's so good.
it's a fun film. And the fact that you could say like, oh, this Teen Wolf is totally serious, but they don't really combine them that way. Like, yeah, they have, it feels like they just have the names of the characters and did a whole new series on their own and just called it Teen Wolf. You can never really compare the two, but it separates itself. And I would like to see sort of like if they did a Back to the Future, kind of separates itself from it. Maybe have have the characters and everything, but sort of separate itself from the movie.
Doc and Marty's relationship would be really cool to watch that get established. That would be definitely something that I would super be interested in.
Yeah, because I mean, honestly, look at Rick and Morty. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
they're
that's
related in the
basically
family, but it's like I'm hanging out with Grandpa, but it's like,
yeah,
but they
yeah,
never show
this
that
old guy
to
down the
us.
street.
yeah.
Yeah, it'd be good to see. Like, if he, I mean, they never mentioned like if he was like family or anything like that. They never. There was like, I gotta go to Doc, and he created a time machine, and then all of it, he meets him again, and it's like, but there's never anything like how they met or in the school or anything like that.
Would you
It
have
was
would you have it set in that time period or today's time period? And which, if it is in today's time period, would the DeLorean still be the
It'd be a Tesla. What are you
oh,
talking about?
I
No,
It'd
want
be a
it.
no,
Tesla,
no,
No,
right?
no.
Oh, okay, I was about to say Tesla. It has to be a Tesla. You got the
I
wings
mean,
too.
I knew it was,
Yeah,
honestly,
exactly.
if you think about it, in part two, instead of using like regular fuel, he ends up using like stuff from the garbage to power up the DeLorean to fly.
Mhm.
So it's like, yeah, it's like the first Tesla. It's using, they're not even using gas. It's actually using like part of like garbage from it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I think I would see a DeLorean still be the DeLorean. Nothing, it should be the DeLorean. Maybe a more an improved kind of like DeLorean, but it would have to be a DeLorean. Because that's the thing. That's that one of the things that made Back to the Future. Yeah.
Okay, well, I think I'm gonna end it up with mine, which is going to be, um, I like the trilogy, and when the fourth one came out, it was pretty bad, right? The third movie was
Oh,
okay. It was not that very well. You know what I'm saying? I think I know
I
what
know what
you.
I know.
But the fourth one was really like crap. I'm sorry, and they came back. You know, most of the cast came back, except maybe one of the main ones came back, and but the main character came back. The actor came back just because he didn't want anybody else to do it, and it reminded me of the movie Free Guy, but just done very badly. But The Matrix should really be a series instead of a movie. And the lore behind everything before The Matrix becomes the Matrix that we know of really should get more development and really should and
Mhm.
even
Get
even
flushed
in
out a
episodes, yeah,
lot
be
more.
fleshed out. But even in the movies, there were a lot of characters that we kind of got to know and we did like in the sequels, but which kind of I wish we kind of learned more of them. And maybe the computer guy, I forgot his name, but the computer guy that was doing like the algorithm, and we saw the letters and all like that. There you
Mhm.
go. Like how his story came to be. It's interesting of maybe each episode is a character, and then at the end they all there's a plot, of course, and they all get together. Maybe go ahead,
Can I twist yours a little bit?
go ahead.
Building Zion. Just the process of people waking up out of their pods and building Zion, realizing that they can jump into the Matrix, figuring it out
Yeah,
while building Zion would
yeah,
that would be a series that I would absolutely enjoy. Yeah, because
I
you
mean,
get all those elements, you get the mythos behind the Matrix, how it all started, you get the development of these characters and what they're fighting for, and we know the one is coming. He's coming. He's just not here yet.
they could be the prequel
And
to
yeah,
the movies.
yeah, exactly. Building
because
Zion.
it was years, and they didn't even know how long they've been like
Mhm.
dealing with this whole thing. So it would be cool just to there could be so much story in between, the beginning and then just as leading up to the Matrix series,
Mhm.
and probably somehow along the lines retcon the entire fourth one. On there, and yeah, I could see that happen. And because I mean the animated episodes that they had in the Renaissance, I think it was the Renaissance one and the Renaissance two, when it talks about how the machines started battling with the humans just because
Mhm.
one machine ended up killing a person, and then they felt like no, they're killers. It's pretty much iRobot. It's sort of like the way iRobot is.
Yeah,
That
they definitely
the
took from
concept
iRobot.
has been there for so many years with Terminator and all that stuff. But have that be, see how the Matrix storyline will tackle that, and just see it just as time progress, how they throw the smoke in the sky, cover the sky, and all that. I would like to see that actually happen. That would be really cool.
It, that would be dope. That would really be. And that one, probably of everything that we've mentioned tonight, that one's probably the most plausible. To be
Yeah,
honest, that one is probably the most plausible.
they can make that, and after seeing them not being successful in the fourth one, maybe they want to do a prequel. Maybe they want to tackle it a different way. Maybe they don't even want to touch it now because of the fourth.
Yeah,
But
and it's definitely it's an WB, so HBO Max could turn that into a series. You know, like they're doing their 10-year plan with DC. They should start take the Matrix IP and just works, try to do a prequel on it. But I feel like, you don't need sequels. I think sometimes prequels, honestly, I think our next top seven should be our prequels.
There you
What
go.
would we? What
That's a
would we?
good.
Yeah, let's say what would be great to do as a prequel to the series, to a series and stuff like that. Let's see if we could try to tackle that. That would be cool to see.
Yeah. What is the movie that just came out? Oh, did you guys watch Thor: Love and Thunder?
I did.
Oh, you did.
Did.
Did you? You didn't watch it?
I haven't seen it.
Damn it. Okay.
I got to see Gray
Have you seen
Man.
it, Rosie?
I got to see it. It took me 2 weeks because I had COVID. But I understood the other side of why people didn't like it.
Mm-hmm. A lot of it, the humor is too much.
The
And
humor
now
was a little
mine
too
are
much.
yeah.
It's
Like
kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy 2, where they had a lot of jokes, and it was just like waiting, kind of like waiting for the crowd to react moments.
yes. Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, okay, let's just keep going.
But gore.
I
The
hold on,
scene.
I
I'm not gonna spoil it. I'm not gonna spoil it for
I'm not
Joey,
gonna
but
spoil it. I'm not
the
gonna spoil it.
scene where he has them preoccupied and he's
Yeah,
in their faces.
that's good. That's good.
I literally edge of the seat. Edge of the seat. Give me
Yeah,
that. And
yeah.
then fucking joke. So
I liked Gore a lot. I really did like him. I was kind of sad that he didn't get the years. Fine, whatever. But I still
mhm.
liked him. I still liked that he got the Necro Sword. And I still liked everything that happened in the background in a way of like the Celestials. We got a lot of that stuff, and we got a little bit
We got
more.
eternity.
Yes,
We
we
got
did.
eternity.
Oh my god, Joey, when you see Eternity, it is beautiful, bro. Beautiful. I am so surprised that they went there, but if you're not a comic book reader, and I'm not trying to gatekeep, but when you're not a comic book reader and you see Eternity, you don't understand that like if Marvel did that, like it's crazy what they can do now, you know?
Did you see
Because I
Infinity?
didn't no, I didn't get to see Infinity.
She was there. She's behind them. Yeah.
Damn, I'm waiting. I'm waiting for it to hit, Disney Plus, so it can
I
get to
think it's
see.
like 2 weeks. 2 weeks from now.
Oh, that's not bad. Okay,
Um,
you don't gotta.
so yeah, Joe, you got to watch it. You got to watch it. I want to know your opinion on it because it's obviously it's mixed reactions for sure.
But I will say with Gore, I wish we got more of the battles with gods than we did with like the whole Guardian scene, the little videos. I
Yeah,
think that would have worked so much better for him to be a villain because he's fighting those gods and butchering them.
yeah, I agree. I
That's
100% agree.
unfortunate not to see that because we
Mhm.
got a lot of, you know, Mighty Thor. We got a lot of the Valkyrie, but I think for them to build a great villain, they should have had that. For them to say, "Oh my God, he's killing all these low-level gods," and then Zeus for him to say like, "It doesn't matter, little shit." Oh, by the way, I
Yeah.
fucking love Zeus.
So there's two cuts of that,
Yes.
and I don't want to spoil this for Joey, but there's two cuts of that. One is the way it was done, and the other one is far more serious. I want to see the serious one just to see the tone. That's the thing. To combine the Jane and Gore story, I think was a little much. I'd rather have Act One be Jane and Act Two be the establishment of Gore, and then finish it off. But to intertwine them in Act One, in Act Two, that was also there's a specific thing that I have a problem with. But I will private message you about that so we don't spoil it for Joey. Uh,
I
but
think
yeah,
it would have been cool. And did you read the comic? You read the comic, Joey, right? When he becomes
I
unworthy.
no. That
Well,
was I remember why
Original Sin.
yeah.
no,
So
I
Nick
don't remember.
Fury tells him why. He whispers it, and we don't find out until later on because Mighty Thor came out, and Secret Wars was taking forever for the comic to finish, or I think for them to even give it to us, or something happened that it took like 2
Uh,
years for us to finally get what Nick Fury said, which was I forgot what he said, fucking years ago. Do you remember?
a reminder of someone he murdered.
Yes, I think so. I don't know, but I kind of wish that he was told by somebody for him to be unworthy. but for him in the movie to like, and then just grab it, because he does grab it in in Endgame.
That's a
It's kind no, it's not, because you do get to see him get it in the Endgame, so it's not really like, he's still worthy, but for him to I wish he wasn't, and then maybe explore more than just comedy Thor, you know.
Yeah,
the scene.
they've been doing that since Ragnarok, and then they did it in Endgame, and then they're
They keep doing it and they don't do it, you know what I mean? Like they did in the
Mhm,
first movie, right? For a minute, and
mhm.
then he gets it in the end, like, you know.
Well, I think because Dark World bombed so bad, they're like, no one wants to see serious Thor, which isn't true. We
It's not
want to see
true.
serious
We want to
Thor.
see Thor, but the movie was hella
Um,
boring.
yeah, so
It wasn't that
uh,
it was serious; it was just that it was boring.
yeah, that too. There wasn't, yeah, uh, definitely a polarizing movie, Love and Thunder, but I enjoyed it for what it was. I'm excited for pretty much everything else that's been announced. Thank you guys for having me on. I
Oh yeah,
appreciate this. I hope I wasn't too boring or talked
oh
over you
man,
guys too much.
come again. You got a lot of knowledge that
hell yeah! You
we
got
like.
more
Yeah.
knowledge than I thought you would. And then, not to say you didn't know, but like,
So my background, I managed a comic book store for 8 years.
Oh,
I've been collecting comics for 20 years. I had 2 Eisner nominations for the Spirit of the Eisner Award. Um, I've had multiple thousand books like transfer through my hands. Not that I own them, but that I've helped find new homes for. I got a funny story if you guys got the time for a quick
all
story.
right. I'm sorry to do this, but Wayne's World reference.
So I was working at a store where I'm originally from, and I had an assistant. He has spinal bifida, and so he gets around on crutches. He was actually one of my groomsmen for my wedding recently, and so I'm sitting in the back of my office,
congrats. Well
and
done.
I hear his crutches like so fast. I thought we were being robbed. Like he was moving that fast. I thought we were being robbed. And so I got up and I was like, "Everything okay?" He's like, "You got to come to the guy has 2 books he wants to sell." So I walk up. The gentleman's got this big ass briefcase, and I was like, "You only have 2 books?" And he brought that huge ass fucking briefcase. And it was August 28th, 2015. And the reason why this is important is because it's Jack Kirby's 100th birthday. Jack Kirby would have been 100 on August 28th, 2015. Guy opens up the briefcase for a Fantastic Four #1 and Fantastic Four #2. They're in about 3.0 each. And so I look at them and I examine the books. I was like, "Where'd you get these?" He's like, "I got them in the army. My bunkmate went AWOL. He gave one of our bunkmates his car, the other one his stereo, and me these 2 comics." I was like, "You probably made out better than the other 2. I'll tell you that much."
Depends on the car,
Are
though.
you looking to? Yeah, it depends on the car too. I was like, "Are you looking to sell them?" He goes, "Yeah." And I looked them up, and I know how much they're worth, so you're not going to rip me off. I'm like, I have no intention of ripping you off. Promise you. Now this is 2005, so this is pre-pandemic.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah,
the
yeah.
prices of these books have changed drastically. So he looks at me. He's like, "I want 300 for the one, and I want 150 for the two." I was like, "You want $450 for these 2 books?" And he goes, "Yeah." I was like, "Okay, I'll give you 4,500." And he goes, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll give you $4,500 for these books because I'm not going to rip you off, and I know exactly how much they're worth. But I'm not going to budge from that." He's like, "You want to 5 grand?" I was like, "You wanted 450. I'll give you 4,500." And so he took the 4,500. I sold the one for 5 grand and the two for 3,500 alone. Like a week later. Um, that was a surreal moment because Jack Kirby's birthday. Uh, and then I got one more story, if you guys don't mind.
Sure,
Go ahead.
sure.
Uh, there was a diner across the street from the store that I was managing, and we were closing up one night. And the owner of the store knew nothing about comics. He hired me because he knew nothing. And the thing about comics is condition is 90% of the value. 10% of the value is the fact that the whole thing just fucking exists. Like, I don't know if you guys follow me on TikTok, but I recently, oh, where'd it go?
Well, I have you on Panaloids, but yeah.
I recently just got this book in the mail, um, which is a Weird Fantasy 18. It's a super historically important comic book. It's got a very important story in it, but it's beat to shit, and I still paid $100 for it. But this woman comes in and she's like, "Do you guys have a minute to look at comics?" And we were closing up. I was like, "I'll stay fucking 5 hours late to look at comics. I don't give a shit." So she brings in this box, and the only way to describe what these books look like is if they went through a washing machine and then a paper shredder. They were barely being held together. They were wrecked.
You should see my old X-Men.
But they were gold. First Brainiac, first Superboy, first Bizarro, first Supergirl, Daredevil 2 through 6, Amazing Spider-Man 5, Fantastic Four 13.
Wasn't 5 Vulture? No.
2 is Vulture. 5 is Doom.
Oh, gotcha.
5 is Doom. Wonderful books, but in terrible shape. Now, 10% of the value is the condition. I mean, 10% of the value is the fact that it exists. So my boss is over my shoulder looking at me, looking at these books, and he's just seeing destruction. He doesn't think they're worth anything. And I'm adding it all up in my head. And we had a rule that I could spend up to $5,000 without permission. And so I get done with the box and I'm like, "How much are you looking for?" She's like, "I'm just really interested in what you think of them." I was like, "I'll give you $3,000 for them." And her and my boss both go, "What?" And I explained, I was like, "You got a lot of great stuff in here. It's just in terrible shape. Like this book," I pulled out the first Brainiac. I was like, "This is a $7,000 book. In this condition, I can get $300 for it." Like, and I went through that. And so she brings one book out on the counter and she slaps it down. She's like, "How much for this book?" And I go, "Oh, I can't buy that." And my boss goes, "That's the only book that looks okay, and you're not even willing to make an offer?" And I turned towards him and was like, "You can't buy that."
Don't tell me it's a #1 Superman.
Nope. It's a Showcase 4. First appearance of the Flash. Silver Age Flash, not Golden Age Flash. Silver Age Flash. Barry Allen.
Yeah.
First Silver Age Flash. So the beginning of the Silver Age, September 1958. And so we go back and forth. She's like, "I really need a new car." I was like, "Would you take $17,000 for it?" So she took $17,000 for it. I sold it 36 hours later for $48,000. Yeah. And mind you, it's not my store, it's not my book. My boss gave me nothing. Wow. Not a cent. And that's when I left that store. I had like 11 job offers to manage comic book stores around the country, and I took one that was relatively close to me, and I'm currently living now in Syracuse, New York. You mentioned you're from where are you guys from?
New York City.
Oh, he's New York City. I'm the Bronx,
Okay.
he's Queens.
Okay. So
we go to
I'm up in upstate. So a store asked me to be the manager up here. I came up here. I managed that store. It didn't go super well, and then I went to school, and I'm a massage therapist by trade, but comics are my passion. I love the history of comics. I want to sell comics again one day, but I have to win the lottery to open up the store that I want to open. So, yeah.
Well, I don't know. Like my end game to this would probably be like a comic book, probably like a cafe comic book type of thing, you know?
So yeah, cafe comic shops are great, but I want like a museum.
Oh, you want a museum?
I want a comic museum and gallery where you can buy original art, where you can learn the history of what's important about comics and why it's so important. And like where I'm from originally, I don't know. Do you guys know where Binghamton, New York is?
Is it to the right of New York State? What is it?
So it's right on the Pennsylvania-New York border. It's about 3 hours from you guys. That's where I'm from originally. And in 1948, it had the largest comic book burning in the history of the United States. They burned 25,000 comics in 1948. So Golden Age books in Binghamton don't exist. Like they all got burned. And I want to rectify that with a comic book museum.
Wow, cool. That'll be a great mention there if you do that in the museum. Like mention that sort of.
Yeah. Like there's a very famous photo. Like if you look up comic book burning, and like the photo is the one from Binghamton. It's the one that they always show. There was a Time magazine article about it. it was such a bizarre incident. But yeah, thank
Damn,
you for letting me ramble. I
they had like
apologize.
no, you're good.
Oh,
No, we always ramble all the time. We go to tangents for 40 minutes and then come back to the topic. Anytime, bro. I appreciate you coming here. Where can they find you? Once again.
You can find me over at Panaloids. I'll occasionally be there. You can find me where pretty much every day I post a Rivera cover until I'll eventually run out. Um, and you'll see me soon with Above All Comics, where we dive more into the history of comics and why creators, characters, and companies were so important.
Awesome, man. Awesome. You know, I've been trying to do the comic book artist talk a lot because I suck at remembering names like really badly. And I also just didn't really pay attention to a lot of like the comic book writers and comic book artists
Mhm.
when I was reading as a kid, but lately I have been paying attention. So I gotta ask, who is your favorite comic book artist? I think I already know that, but who is your favorite comic book writer too?
So Paulo Rivera obviously is my favorite comic book artist. Huge passion for his work. He's such an incredibly nice person as well. I can't say that enough for what he's done for me personally and just in general. He's an incredibly nice person. In terms of writer, Matt Kint is a fantastic writer. I almost follow everything that he does. Um, should I say James Tinian the Fourth because he helped me find my wife? If it wasn't for James, I think. Um, so James Tinian the Fourth, I follow almost everything he does. Brian K. Vaughan, perfect. Uh, Pretty much everything that he does is gold. Alan Moore, he's psychotic, but his writing is fantastic.
uh, yeah, he's
Um,
a bit nuts.
he's a bit nuts.
I
That is
mean, the way they
100% true.
portrayed him, and if you see that Simpsons episode that he actually voiced, they made him
Yeah,
look kind of nuts in there.
yeah. David Walker is a fantastic writer. Bitterroot is one of the best series you'll ever read. Um, Paul Jenkins. I mean, I can go on and on, multiple lists. But yeah, when you're younger, you don't pay attention to. You pay attention to the characters that you love, and you follow those characters no matter how bad they're written or how badly they're rendered or drawn or
So
painted.
true. Yeah.
Um, and then when you reach of age and this medium grabs a hold of you, you gravitate towards different things, whether it's specific storylines, if you're a superhero person or a crime person or a horror person. And that's when you connect with the creators that you care about. And that's like the really, really cool part. I don't know if uh, you saw on my Instagram. This is my 30th birthday card. Paulo did this for me for my 30th birthday card. He just sent it to me like on a whim, and so that happened
Oh yeah, I was gonna be
because
like,
of
what the
it.
hell? Is that Daredevil?
Yeah, it's literally the birthday card. Yeah, so yeah, we Panaloids did an interview with Terry Moore. We had to cut a lot of it, but that was a really really fun one because me and Terry just went on complete tangents that Kyle knew nothing about when it came to like the history of comics. It was really awesome. Um, yeah, so you guys are have you guys started interviewing creators yet, or are you just still trying to get a few?
I haven't talked to really like comic book artists. We haven't talked to anybody like that.
Mhm,
We had just a interview with a friend of mine, just talking about like
mhm.
Avatar, and then he watched the second what was it, Korra's story. But other than
Oh,
that,
Legend
we
of Korra.
yeah, Legend of Korra, which
Yeah.
is so controversial in TikTok that I've seen, and just like in general on YouTube. But I still
Mhm.
liked it.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, no, I haven't talked to any. I have emailed Paulo. I think I'll
Yeah.
email him
Yeah.
again. Yeah.
He's got a lot of stuff in the works right now. But towards the end of the year, he's definitely gonna have some more free time.
Did you have
But
any
yeah,
like artwork
uh,
put up in your wedding or anything like that?
so that was the really funny part is so Paulo has these stickers that he occasionally includes in with his order.
Oh my
Um,
god,
and so I had these were our table numbers. So
that's
instead of doing
cool.
table numbers, we did comic book characters. And I didn't get much in the way of comic book stuff for my wedding. My cufflinks were Daredevil. All my groomsmen had
Nice.
comic book cufflinks, and then the table numbers were comic characters, and that was like the only. I referenced Spider-Man in my vows, um, specifically Spider-Man issue 53, volume 2. God, I know me and you, we've had our differences, but tonight I want to say thank you. Thank you for her. Which no one in the audience knew the reference. I mentioned that it was Spider-Man, but he says that right after him and Mary Jane hook up. So I was really glad that no one knew the reference.
Oh my
Like,
God.
right after they hooked up. Like she's laying naked in bed next to him and he's staring up at the ceiling talking to God. Um, and then my nephew was one of my groomsmen. He's 11 and he gave a speech, and in the speech he said, "Remember, with great love comes great responsibility." That was really sweet of him to do.
That was
So yeah, that was my little comic book thing was. Oh, and so the seating chart, because those were the table numbers. The seating chart was the head with a speech balloon that said like these people are coming to sit with me, and they all had like references. Here comes is what Daredevil says, because in the very first issue of Daredevil, the title reads "Here comes Daredevil."
yeah.
So here comes, and then it's everyone's listed. My spider sense is tingling that these people and listed names of people need to come with me. Wolverine was all right, Bubs, you're following me. Grogu just said baby babble. Hulk said Hulk smash with, and then Iron Man listed the names and said, "We'll show these people really how to party." And then the Iron Man one was, and so he also has a
Wait,
Hellboy sticker.
you gotta
And
say that again because you cut off.
oh, the Iron Man one, or
Yeah.
yeah, it
Iron
was
Man,
actually
yeah.
like in his text bubble. So like all the them had normal text bubbles, but he had like the robotic one because when you see him talking to
Oh,
comic. Yeah,
Uh,
my friend did a really good job of that. I'll send you a picture of the eating chart. But we have 3 cats at home, and Hellboy is obsessed with cats. So at the very bottom of the seating chart, just Hellboy says, "I wish Lily, Cora, and Navi were here." So yeah, our cat Cora is named after the Avatar.
that's
My wife's
cool.
obsessed with Avatar. So
We had a friend we used to work with. She had a Doctor Who theme. It was really nice. Everyone had they had sonic screwdrivers. I think the
oh,
wedding
that's
band
sweet.
was blue. Everything was all blue. TARDIS blue, obviously. It was so sweet. It was
Mhm.
so nice. I kind of want to have like a Superman thing because my girl knows I love Superman. Like that's my thing. Joey had a purple theme, but he tried to have something comic book. No, he didn't.
no,
You
no.
told me you
She
wanted to
just
have.
no. I would have, but no. She just did a whole lavender thing. Maybe in the future. Maybe I'll do. We could do something else on our anniversary or something.
Yeah, you could do
Who
like a
knows?
10-year thing, you know? Or what did George Lopez do? Like a 20-year re-wedding in his show?
Renewal vows,
Renewal of
yeah,
the
yeah,
vows, yeah. Yeah, you could do
yeah.
that.
Uh, to explain how James Tinian the Fourth gave me my wife,
Oh, yeah.
I had him for his first ever comic book signing ever. Um, so back when he just started on Batman Eternal and he just started The Woods, which I don't know if you guys have read The Woods. I highly suggest. It's a Boom Studios book. I think it ran 24 issues. It's fantastic. It's been optioned for a TV show. Probably is never going to happen, but it's fantastic. So it was right when The Woods came out. It was right when he got him back. We did his first ever comic book signing. And I knew he was going to be big. So I told my friend who worked for the news to send down a reporter to interview him. He sent my wife. And so the first time I saw her, I was like, God damn, like, I need to talk to this woman. And she proceeded to be the biggest bitch I'd ever met in my life. She wanted nothing to do with me. She wanted to interview the dude and leave. She just wanted to do her job and get the fuck out of there. Surrounded by a bunch of geeks at a comic book signing, last
Yeah.
place she went. So James had to leave, and so I'm cleaning up, and all of a sudden she's back. She has one of his books. She wants it signed, and I was like, "He's gone, unfortunately. I have a copy of that. I'll trade you." And she's like, "You trade me?" I was like, "Yeah, if you give me your number." Only smooth thing I've ever done in my entire life, gentlemen. The only smooth thing I've ever done. So before she leaves the store, I text her, and she texts me back 6 months later.
Whoa, 6 months? Wow. My girl
Like the
texted me.
conversation like just started. Like, hey, love in New York City must be interesting because I mean, there's so many people, there's so much stuff to do. Like,
Yeah,
it's
she's
got
from
to be.
Texas, but yeah.
Yeah, the funny thing about that, it always involves like, let's just walk around the city.
Let's just
It
fuck.
never. That's what usually dates are, and then after that, it just becomes like, let's go this, let's go there, and that. But like first dates are
Let's
always
see
like,
all the things we
let's just
could
go, you know.
do. Let's not do them. Let's just look at them, and then if we make it, we'll do.
Yeah.
Like
Or the
I'm,
mall. Can never go
yeah,
wrong with the mall.
especially when you're like homebody person, like you just stay
Oh
home.
yeah.
You don't know much about restaurants and things like that. You've gone to a few, but you're like, I don't know if you will take them there. And sometimes that doesn't even cross your mind. You're like, we could take a walk, talk, and have some conversation, and you know, just stroll around the city.
Go to the
And
High
it's just
Line.
later
Everyone
when,
goes there.
yeah, it's
That's
just
the New York
later when
vibe.
we started. Yeah, it's just later when you start like, I needed to find things to do before she gets bored, because walking the city is just not gonna be exciting anymore.
Especially because I mean, you can technically do it in the winter, but man, does it fucking suck. You
Well,
guys have a great night.
it was a
I will
pleasure
talk to you
talking to
guys
you.
soon.
Thank you so
All
much
right,
for
man.
being here, man. Have a good one.
Yeah,
Thank
man.
you.
Take
See
care.
you
Nice
guys.
meeting you, man.